Good afternoon, everybody. This is Allan Rich, and I want to get my facts correct before I even begin. So, as far as Obamacare is concerned, the $700 billion went to supply health care to a lot of American people who didn't have it. For instance, up to 17 million children with pre-existing conditions will now have health care and will be able to be taken care of. I don't think that Mr. Ryan really understands what it means to have 17 million young children hurt and exposed to diseases that insurance companies won't cover. I'm sure his children are covered very well, and I'm sure Mr. Romney's children are covered. But a man who preaches Catholicism and Jesus Christ, who wish to cover everybody in every way, especially the poor, and a good Catholic like him goes completely against everything that Jesus stood for and goes to Ayn Rand. I mean, that is completely laughable. If anybody have seen The Fountainhead and how the individuality of Ayn Rand can destroy an entire building or buildings out of pure greed and pure selfishness. Then we have 6.6 million young adults up to age 26 who are covered by their family. And it just so happens that my granddaughter had a cancer in her, what do they call it, a thyroid, which would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars that she didn't have because she was 24 at the time, and she was covered, and it saved her life. It took her a year to get better. That's just an example of what these two people, Romney and Mr. Ryan, are trying to digress from the reality. Some of the other things I wish to point out to the American people is that these billionaires all over the world, including America and Europe and Asia, are doing exactly what the monarchy did for 600 or 700 years. The great kings and queens of Europe purchased paintings by Velasquez, by Goya, by Peter Paul Rubens and Rembrandt. Many of you never heard of those names, but when I was blacklisted, I went into the art business, and I learned all of the Renaissance painters' names. Now these billionaires are buying Picasso for $150 million. And they're buying Andy Warhol's silk screens transferred to a panel, and he puts a little color on it, and it's sold for $70 million. During the monarchy, their people were starving to death in the same way that 44 million Americans are on the brink of starvation. That's only the beginning. Don't you all realize that the defense budget is overwhelming in America, and the rest of the world spends 1/20th of what we spend on defense? We are sitting with hundreds of H-bombs. Pakistan has H-bombs. India has H-bombs. Israel has H-bombs. France has H-bombs, and all of these companies, Korea may have an H-bomb, and Iran may have an H-bomb. Don't you all realize what that means? I was in Manila in 1945 when two A-bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and in 10 minutes, 250,000 human beings lost their lives. Now, you all have computers. Go into your computer and put in the H-bomb, and what would result if an H-bomb fell? I'm sorry. you will find that in 1 hour, 100 million human beings will die, and then the planet will go into nuclear winter for several billion years. And the only thing that will be alive are one-celled animals and one-celled plants called paramecium and spirogyras. And you know who'll go with all of us? All those billionaires who think they're going to live forever. We'll take them all with us. Grow up, America, and realize that the oceans are increasing by several inches a year. That's why the tsunami came. That's why the heat of 110 degrees all over the country at certain moments are there. Don't you understand? We are in serious trouble. We will never pay that $16 trillion debt off. The same thing will happen to us that happened to the Weimar Republic in 1923 when they couldn't pay off the Allies and you had to have a barrel of money to buy a loaf of bread when they devalued the mark. Thank you very much. I beg of you, grow up, America, and smell the coffee. Thank you for listening.